Hey, lots of people are having very big awarenesses coming from the underbelly of their lives, like what the energy behind certain things in their lives has been. If it's not working and not serving them, it is coming up in awareness right now, like unconsciousness bubbling to the surface of consciousness. And I want to say that if you are somebody who's struggling with this right now, going, oh my God, I feel like my life is slipping through my fingers, I feel like I'm being crucified by old patterns, or like something is going to break right now, I want to honor you in the process of what I call demolition to rebuild, but also the crucifixion of old things that haven't been serving you, and hope to give you new insights for the resurrection that's to come on the other side of that. But this week specifically, I want to talk about if you are in a relationship with somebody and you simultaneously want them to change but fear their change because you are afraid that they're going to leave you. So we think, oh, I want my partner to change, but normally we want them to change in the direction of us. We want them to change and grow in the same flower field, so to speak, that we're growing in, and see the same perspectives. And sometimes somebody else's change looks very, very different than we would want it to. So I want to shed a little light on this for you today. The idea that we actually get into relationships usually to avoid our own pain. We get into them to avoid loneliness if we are unconscious. And we don't often get into them for true intimacy, true witnessing, true unconditional vulnerability with somebody. Oftentimes in relationships, we want them to fill our voids, we want to fill their voids, and there's an energetic exchange that we try to balance out and keep an equilibrium for, even when we know that equilibrium isn't working. So it's the idea of like the codependent with the addict. Oftentimes the codependent will pull the addict back into addiction, and not intentionally, but because that's the relationship pattern that they know how to stay in together. And if they want to stay together, it's very hard for one person to change and become full of themselves, so they don't need that energy exchange of, okay, you're going to fill my voids, I'm going to fill your voids. When somebody's full, the other person who's still grappling at that energetic dynamic of, I need to fill your voids, or that's my role, so I need to know what you need, so that, and you need to need something from me so that I know what my role is, or this person who's full isn't really participating in the dynamic of needing to fill each other's voids. They're just going, I'm full right here, and I need you to do the work to be full on your own. And a lot of times we want our partners to change with us when we're actually trying to understand what those voids are in ourselves. And that's not usually a good way to be, because I always say to people who are in relationships coming to do work with me that it's very likely going to cause conflict in your relationships. And that's specific to my clientele, because the people who come to me don't already know what their preferences are. They don't know what they actually like. They've just done things because they thought they were supposed to, and they do things because this is what makes them good. And when they come to me, they learn how to have a backbone. And oftentimes we can say we want our partners to change, but when somebody changes, they become strong in themselves, and then we feel outed. We feel on the other side of those walls, because all of a sudden we're not in that mix of that equilibrium. So if you think of it like this, somebody who's traditionally cold in the relationship, if all of a sudden they warm up, the person who's normally warm and chill is going to take it extra cool. You're going to get extra cold and not really know why. And it's because the energy of your relationship is trying to maintain what it always had. It's like a baby, okay? And everybody has their own energetic default. And that baby, which is in between you guys, has a very specific frequency. And we do our best to maintain what has been comfortable, not what we want to be comfortable. So rather than entering relationships to go, I cannot wait to see what joy this brings me, we go, thank God, just let me fall into you so I can no longer be in pain, right? So we can't be in intimacy and be in judgment at the same time. So this is true for relationships across the board. Sometimes we're going to have to let relationships go that are partnerships. Sometimes they're going to be friendships. And at the end of the day, we have to uncreate everything that was created in that relationship before. So we have to release our partners. We have to release our friends every single day, okay? So that we're not in judgment of them. So every time my partner sees me grow into something, he's a master at this. he can be witness to it, and he never fears that he's going to lose me, because at the end of the day, he feels like I'm going to choose him. And more importantly, at the end of the day, this is what is most important, is that even if I didn't choose him, he would choose himself. Okay? And that dynamic, that psychological interplay is huge. So he's taught me so much from that, and how true it is that we have to be so willing to focus on our own growth, because oftentimes we want our partners to change, and then we fear that they're changing because we're going to lose them. And then we start acquiescing to their growth. Okay, how can I support their growth because they're finally doing it, right? And then in doing that, we become void of ourselves all over again. So we have to be willing to work on ourselves, to focus on our own growth, so that if they left us because of their growth, which likely isn't going to happen, I'm going to talk to you about that in a second, but if they leave us because of their own growth, it would be so that we loved them unconditionally, that we loved them enough to let them grow, and that we loved them enough that if letting them grow looked like letting us go, we would let that happen. Also, not because we love them enough to do it, but because we love ourselves enough to do it. Do you really want to be at a job where people don't appreciate you? Do you really want to be in a relationship with somebody who's just there because that's what they're supposed to do? Like, we want to be chosen. We all want to be chosen. Every single one of us wants to be chosen. And in that process, we externalize that desire instead of inverting it and choosing ourselves. So we go, okay, well, I hope my partner still chooses me at the end of the day. We have to destroy that desire even, so that we know at the end of the day we've chosen us. And when we stay open, when we really stay open and we are witness to somebody else's growth, the way that we would be a child or a flower, instead of going, oh my God, you're growing in the direction that I don't know if I trust that territory, right? But when we just watch it like a beautiful process, and we don't intermix ourselves into it and go, oh my God, you're not filling my voids anymore, we have the opportunity to actually be with growth in action. And so here's what it looks like. If one person gets full, the other person is going to naturally have to get full. And a lot of times we look to our partner with this half-assed desire for them to change so that we can change, right? And we go, okay, well, he's changing, so what does that mean I have to do? All it means that you have to do is get full. That's all it means, is to focus on your own change, focus on your own preferences, focus on what's going to make you happy today. Who are you going to be have to be with you today, and to allow your own change today, and to not have to focus externally on somebody else's change. Because at the end of the day, all you got to do is choose you. But in doing so, you have to be open, because being open is the only way that relationship could even thrive as a relationship in and of itself. Because the second we close and we go, okay, well, he might leave me or she might leave me because they're changing, what we've done already in the relationship is we've constructed walls. We come together and go, okay, we're going to be together. We're going to create this little empire. We're going to have this kingdom together. But what we end up doing is we use judgments to separate us, and then one person has a kingdom here, one person has a kingdom here, and instead of thinking that both are acceptable kingdoms and that they're just going to collaborate to, build something bigger and better than themselves together, they go, oh my God, this is my kingdom and I have to keep you out, and this is my kingdom and I have to keep you out. But to stay open and to be witness to all of it, to receive all of it, to receive the, I don't know if I want to be with you. God, it's so funny. My partner and I are so open with each other that conversation has come up, and at least this is what happens. We face it together instead of apart. So every time we fight at this point in our relationship, we're at least fighting together. We're not fighting against each other. We're literally doing it together, showing up together to stand for the fight, okay? And that's only because both of us are open to each other, and we're both leading our own separate lives and going, I totally want you in the mix of my life, and I'll do anything to make that happen, but I will never dishonor myself in the process. And neither of us expect ourselves to dishonor each other. So, or ourselves, really. So at the end of the day, it simply looks like when our partner gains a backbone, and we fear that because all of a sudden they're becoming strong in energy, and they might use that energy to run elsewhere. Those fears are valid. You are allowed to have them. You're allowed to even entertain them if you want. But at the end of the day, you got to look at it that it's your fear from your perception, and that's your work, because that's part of your growth. That's part of focusing on your growth. Why do you fear that this person is going to leave you? Why do you fear that, what do you fear will happen? Who do you think you would be? What do you think it would mean if this person left you because of their growth? And when you can answer all of those things for yourself, and when you can really dig, and that's so much deeper than that, it's not just that surface, but when you can really dig and understand those, you become full. And the voids that you thought, oh my God, they're going to leave a void, they're no longer going to be a void. They're going to be, oh, that's why I feel that way, and this is what I will do about it if that happens. And most of us who really are full in integrity with the character that we've come to be, and we've embodied the self, and we've become self-full, we can have great relationships with other people because we're allowed to be seen as our fullness in ourselves, and we also expect other people to do the same. We expect it of them, right? But we can't be in a space of judgment and intimacy at the same time. So if I'm expecting my partner to be full in himself and to be strong for himself, to be strong for the family, I cannot simultaneously judge that I am afraid that he's going to leave me when he becomes strong. Because that says to me, and this is a psychological pattern for me, when I would act strong, and this is shadow work coming up here, when I would act strong when I was young, I would very quickly be reinforced that I was very weak. So that's oftentimes, we have an interplay, if you're somebody who's afraid your partner will leave you if they grow. Well, there's an interplay in us going, my strength, if I become strong, usually means that somebody's going to make me feel weak at the end of my strength. Usually your authority figure or something in your life, and you likely have that relationship with the universe, is going to shut you out because strength is scary, including your own. So you're going to learn very quickly that you're weak, right? So we see our partners become strong and we go, oh my God, I'm about to be shut out because they're strong. And that's not the case. And that's, again, shadow work. It's inner work. It's knowing what's actually going on in the inner workings of your mind that are creating these patterns that even keep your default of your relationship at a place where you desire anything in it to change at all. What would it be like if you had a relationship that it didn't matter if it changed? If it stayed exactly the same forever, it would be so okay with you that you would choose it every day and every day and every day. But that relationship that you choose every day, I promise you, you also have to destroy it every day. And not in form, but in thought. Because to be here now with our partners, we must be willing to let go of what was then. And most of us don't like to do that because that means then was either wrong or then was something else. And we want to cling on to that history and say, this is who we are. But we can't be who we've come to become, especially in relationships, until we have essentially crucified who we were when we enter that relationship, so we can resurrect who we've come to be in relationships. So at the end of the day, the focus has to be on our work, on knowing thyself, so that thyself can give room for other people to know thyself. And when you know thyself, it's so much easier to not take things personally because you choose you anyway, and you are grateful for yourself, and you still allow yourself to be open and vulnerable, and you still make room inside of yourself for all of those things. So when you can choose you, you can trust much more easily, love, so please hear me when I say this, that somebody else is going to choose you too. So choose you. Notice the fear that, okay, if they change, they might leave me. But also notice the times when you want to snag them back into being who they've been because you think if they changed into something new, they're being fake. People are allowed to change, just so you know. Or that you were fooled before. You weren't fooled, they were fooled. And the world validated that they were who they thought they were until they do work like this. And then they go, oh my God, like I am in here and I'm allowed to be in here? Who would I be if I was allowed? And that's scary. Having somebody else who at one point didn't feel as powerful to have their own power is scary because we don't trust necessarily what they're going to do with it because they've never been allowed to use it. And it's kind of like you know, strict parents make sneaky kids kind of thing, where we go, okay, I never really had power. Who would I be if I was allowed to use it? And we feel like oftentimes people will just kind of blow up their lives when they feel their own power, because they go, okay, I'm going to uncreate everything. I'm that powerful. And we don't trust what they'll do with their power because they've never been entrusted with it. So we have to hold space for them to be in trust of their own power, okay? And you have to hold space for yourself to do exactly the same. If you're here, if you're in the space where you're like, oh my God, the underbelly of my relationship is boiling to the surface and I'm so scared of what that's going to look like, what the ramifications are, I hope this was helpful for you today. Bye, guys.